got names which that historical event was supposed to express symbolically in the name-giving. And then he says, he didn't have to explain to him, it was obvious for everybody in Jerusalem, when that child is born, they will call him the victorious, the peace giver, the omnipotent God, which is all Oriental poetry, for God's sake, and not bald, factual American talk. That will happen, and it so happened that by this kind of talk, he encouraged his king, which was the purpose of the entire Isaiah speech.
Okay, Dr. Kaiser?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to cut any of your butterflies apart, but I want to keep the butterfly, though. I wouldn't want to blow the whole thing away. And I must not say it's poetry and, oh, I feel warm, let her go. No, it still is trying to, even through the medium of poetry, communicate. I mean, the writer is not stuttering. He is saying something. And he goes on to say, and of the increase of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. And the zeal of the Lord of hosts, the Lord Almighty, will accomplish this. Now, that rings a bell with me. That sounds like the 2 Samuel 7 passage. And he is linking here. There's networking that's going on. He is not speaking in a vacuum. He is speaking out of the context of Genesis 3 and Genesis 12 and 2 Samuel 7. So there is a butterfly here, a most beautiful butterfly. And it is the butterfly of the Messiah, and that he himself is man, but yet is true God.
What is the hint that you get from the text itself that would say that the son that was to be born there was a sign there, but it was not necessarily all that was being talked about in Scripture?
Because of Isaiah, if we take Isaiah's total work, it is that he is both to suffer, and then he is to have a reign and a rule and peace and justice and righteousness that will have no end.
Dr. Lapid?
I agree with our friend, of course, because the rabbis do just what Kaiser did.
Okay.
They read into the text, and my sages are past masters at the art of reading into the text certain connotations long before you evangelicals started business. In other words, they have read out of the Hebrew Bible 456, he's quite right with the number, Messianic prophecies, where it takes a very fine magnifying glass to have the text yield this very meaning. But my rabbis were all sick with an illness I would call Messianitis, a chronic inflammation of the Jewish glands of hope.
Sounds serious.
Yeah. It's incurable, the disease. We still have it. Thank God for that.
Did it come out of that text, though?
What's that?
Were the Jewish rabbis, did they get that information out of that text? Were they right or wrong?
I don't think it's that easy. Between right and wrong in Jewish thinking, there's 27 possibilities in between. I'm sorry.
Do you see that they had a right in giving all of the Targums and the Midrash to us because of that verse?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Because, as Kaiser rightly says, if you read it with a deep longing for Messianic redemption in his heart, your mind is far from objective. And you can read out of that text just what Kaiser said. And his longing for the Messiah, Christologically as his is, and messianically future as that of the rabbis was, of course, blurs his scientific view. And that's good so.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm glad it did.
All right,
because God forbid we should read the Bible unemotionally.
Good. We got only about 30 seconds left. We're going to pick this up next week, but the final comment.
The most amazing thing is that if I read it in, and I don't like reading in, I dislike eisegesis. I think we should take it out of the text, exegesis only. And I think that I've only done that. But yet, Dr. Lapid, if there are 27 different interpretations, how did you get the one by which you knew that I didn't get it from what Isaiah said, but I read it out? You must have snuck somehow into the truth, and you were able to find out that I didn't have it. And therefore, there must be one meaning. Somehow, you did get it. And that is my point. There is somehow a single meaning to the text.
Wait a minute.
Quickly. Go ahead.
My dear Kaiser, the rabbis have found the Solomonic solution. They say the prophets of Israel, in whom they firmly believed, of course, were speaking at one and the same time on three different levels. They were speaking to their own contemporaries, and that's the king of Judah to whom Isaiah speaks. At the same time, they lend expression to an eternal truth. And thirdly, at the same time, they open an inkling for the Messianic time to come. Sometimes without even knowing it. The rabbis say the prophets didn't know sometimes that they spoke of the Messiah because they only meant Ahab, the king of Judah. But the words God put into their mouth had a triple meaning, which does not exclude at all your Messianic exegesis.
Final comment.
This whole question comes up in the New Testament in 1 Peter chapter 1, and it is a question, did the prophets write better than they knew? Now, my evangelical cohorts say, oh yes, I think they would have liked what Dr. Lapid just said. But I protest there at that point, and I say that the prophets knew, says the text, that they were writing about Messiah. They knew about his sufferings. They knew about his glory. They knew the order. It was the glory that should follow the sufferings. They knew about us, too, to whom it was revealed that not only unto themselves, but unto us were they saying these things. Well, then why does the text say in 1 Peter chapter 1 that the prophets were inquiring and searching diligently? They are scratching their heads. What are they scratching their heads about? And the text there, aistenei poion kairon, unto what or what manner of time was in them. It is the temporal question which the prophets did not know. But if they had revelation, if it was revealed, the apocalypto, galah, if there was a making naked, a bare, a deposit of truth, then indeed this is what they spoke, and what they spoke was not what they were bending over in a mechanical way to say, I wonder what it is saying, and they didn't know, or as if the Spirit whispered to them, propitiation, and they'd say, how do you spell it? And that would be sort of mechanical, you see. But they are writing what they know, and this is part of the revelation.
All right, we got to wrap it up right here. Please join us. We're going to pick up with Isaiah 53 next week. All right, please join us. Welcome. We're glad that you joined us this week, and we are talking with two scholars, one representing Orthodox Judaism and another one representing Orthodox Christianity, on the topic, is there evidence in the Hebrew Scriptures concerning the Messiah that either points to Jesus or is it somebody else? What is that evidence? And Dr. Kaiser, I'm going to start with you again this week in terms of you've got to set the case, because you're saying that the Hebrew Scriptures of Dr. Lapid are saying there's evidence that points to a specific person, and that is fulfilled in Jesus. All right, if that's so, then outline it for us, please. And let's stick to Isaiah 53 or in that area.
Yes, I think Isaiah 53 is the central passage in this whole discussion. For the great question is the identity of the servant of the Lord. The servant is probably, if I had to rename the doctrine of the Messiah, I think it would be more appropriately named the servant of the Lord than the Messiah, because there are 20 references already